I'm going to ease into this instead of being so formal. I'm just going to say, welcome. This is our first podcast. This is the pilot episode
yes.
of the SPCA of Texas Pawdcast. We finally put it together. Yeah. It's finally, all the equipment's here. All the right people are here. And I think this is just going to be a fantastic little way for us to talk about animals and this organization and everything we do here. So I think it's probably appropriate if we go around and kind of introduce ourselves and talk to each other and find out who we are and what we'll be bringing to the audience.
Sounds good.
My name is Paul. I'm the Marcom senior manager. Work for Maura, she'll introduce herself. I'm sort of in charge of a variety of things in the marketing department. One of the things I do, I supervise the video guy, which is KJ at the end, and also our podcast host and the social media person, along with a lot of other projects, mostly things that Maura just doesn't want to do. She says, here, take this. No, I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. No, I do a lot of different things in the organization, but mostly it's coming together, coming up with things and programs and assistance to help us move animals out the door and get the word out to a large number of people that we have such great animals here that are ready for homes and ready to go every day. So that's a little bit about me. Maura, want to talk about yourself a little bit and what you do?
Sure thing. Yeah. Thanks, you guys. Yeah, the equipment looks great. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. Yes, the pilot, I like calling it the pilot.
It's a great word.
Yeah,
Love that pilot.
It's a pilot.
Episode.
Figuring things out. Very excited. This is something that's been on my mind for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I need to figure out how to which way to turn my head. But no, I'm Maura Davies. Been with the SPCA of Texas for 23 years, which has both flown and, mainly just flown. I feel like 23 years ago, I blinked and now I'm here. But I head up Marcom's and I'm an English major twice over. And so I had no idea where I was going to go. I thought I was going to be a book editor, maybe a college professor. But it turned out my parents prepared me really well for what ended up being my career. My dad's a politician. My mother was an opera singer. And so I was on stage from when I was itty bitty, wearing the little poofy skirts with the petticoats, and I was the one who would introduce my dad for a rally, or we'd have a barbecue and my dad would say something and he would always say, Maura, do you want to come say something? And I'd be like, yes, I do. And I'd run up and say something silly. So I've gotten to do a lot of fun stuff. I got to grow up in the Capitol in Austin, and then with my mom on stage in musical theater. So, and behind stage, of course, mainly, but, had a couple of bit parts anyway. A lot of fun. So no, for 23 years I've been here, and I've probably dreamed of the SPCA of Texas having a podcast for most of that time.
Wow.
I've always been a huge fan of podcasts. I listen to a ton. Have a lot of folks I look up to out there, and just excited to talk about animal topics, things that people want to know, things people need to know. And so I have, I know one thing, and I'm going to ask you this, Paul, before you go, and then make sure you say this too, KJ.
Okay.
Let's talk about our pets.
Yes. Oh, that's great. I didn't even think of that. That's perfect.
Yeah. I have one dog named Grace and one cat named Opal. They're both from here.
Oh, and they're the sweetest.
All of the pets are wonderful. And it is okay. People out there don't have pets, do have pets. They're thinking about pets. You could foster a pet. There's so many different ways that animals are in people's lives. It doesn't necessarily need to be in their home right that minute.
Totally.
Opal was 9 months old when we adopted her, and now she's 8. Yeah. And she's my daughter's best friend in the whole world. And then Grace was a rescue, one of 90 dogs, saved from a situation where she was chained under a trailer. She, had to have a lot of teeth pulled. She had a lot of different illnesses, but we nursed her back to health. And my family and I fostered her, and we fell in love with her. She's just the sweetest thing. But
Opal, did you say that's the cat, right?
Opal's my cat.
Opal's the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, we have a dog and a cat, both named after old ladies.
I like it.
That's the best. So when they get older, it's totally fitting for them when they're old. That's awesome.
No, I do have a friend out there named Grace, but I don't know any humans named Opal.
Yeah, that's kind of an old name, isn't it?
Yeah, like 100 years ago.
Yeah, like my daughter's middle name is May.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to be a name back in the day, like May West. And, back in the 20s and 30s, that's kind of a name for that time.
Yeah, I had an
Opal.
aunt named Nelline.
How about that? Yeah.
I've never heard that again. Yeah, Paul, what about you?
Well, and how nice. See, and she's already smoking it. I'm like, I didn't see this guy, and I come in at 8. And she's like, she has this wonderful background of her life. Well, just a little bit of background beyond what I stumbled through on that first one. I worked in TV for a while, worked in radio for a while. So did KJ. We both went to the same school. And so I've kind of been involved in broadcast my whole adult life, as it were. Spent some time in the Air Force and then got out, went back to college and, started my professional life, if you will, sort of in the broadcasting world. So I spent a lot of time there and got really comfortable with it and loved it. But now I've kind of moved on into the nonprofit, and especially with animals. And I think I probably beat Maura down every day telling her how much I love it here, because it's just so cool. We get to do stuff like that. We get to sit around and talk about animals and figure out ways that we can get people to come in and see these, or take the animals to people, let them see the animals and get them adopted. These just sweet, sweet babies that really don't have any, they've done nothing in life to deserve a bad life. They just want a good life. And that's so cool. I love being a part of the machine with you guys to help find those people, to connect them with those people, because I know what animals can do for your life. So, but yeah, I think, working at TV probably helped prepare me for this. And, KJ, he's a master when it comes to everything audio and video. So the two of us, once we got the clear from you that we could do this and you were excited about it, we just ran like, wild ponies trying to get it done. And we're so glad that we're here finally to sit here and be able and have you part of the team and just get this thing kicked off, because it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. And KJ came up with the word edutainment, and that's what we're going to try to do.
I'm going to say I didn't come up with that, but
well, you brought it up in this context.
I do use it a lot.
Yeah, and I love it. So, but that's me. KJ, you want to talk about yourself a little bit?
Yeah. So I'm the marketing content specialist. I do photography, videography, special projects type things. And basically my job is to do a little bit of connecting myself, which is to connect not volunteers, but people who are looking to adopt or people who are looking to foster with the right pet for them. So I take a lot of pride in my job in capturing the animals in their natural states and getting their personalities and things like that, and making sure that whoever's watching their video knows exactly what kind of animal they're going to take home.
Perfect.
So I do have an animal. I have 2 animals, but it is my wife's animal. She has a dog. It's also mine. I'm just saying.
Is that the mean one?
She's not mean. She's old.
Oh, the old one. Okay.
She just. Your wife is her favorite, or his, or her? Your wife's pet.
It's a girl.
It's a girl. Mm-hmm. So your wife is just her favorite person. That's all.
That's what it is.
It happens.
She likes me a lot. I'm not going to say,
So you're her second favorite person.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that, because I also have a cat, and he's a little bit more of a troublemaker.
Yeah.
His name is Tyson, but we just call him Kitty Cat because that's what he likes to be called, I guess. So
I don't think it'd be right if our pets didn't have 800,000.
Right.
Totally.
I have at least 5.
Yeah.
So.
Because I'm just going to adjust this fan. Keep talking.
Yeah.
I'm just going to adjust this fan while you talk, because it is loud. So keep talking.
Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do here. A little bit more about my background. So I started actually in theater like you did. I was going for theater because I didn't know what else to do in my life. And I don't have as much experience as you both do just yet. I'm still working. But I started as a theater student at UTA, and I needed to make some money. So I said, what can I do to make money? I saw that there were theater students who needed headshots. I bought a photography camera, a DSLR camera, and I started making money that way. And then over time, I just kind of grew with videography, adding that on, graphic design, and now that's pretty much how I got here.
That's what's led you here.
Cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I forgot to say I have a pet. His name is Bean. And my daughters are allergic. We're all allergic to various things, and Bean's kind of a good fit for that allergy thing. So
Sweet Bean.
Yeah,
I love that name.
Boy.
And KJ, Tyson is your cat, and your dog is named
China.
I love it. I could not remember.
Is she China old or?
She's old.
Is she? Yeah.
She's old, and sadly, she may not be with us longer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So we are looking at more animals here.
Cool.
Yeah, we're like, who can be our new family member? So
yes, the wonderful thing is you can just kind of look until you find somebody and say, you know what, maybe we do a foster weekend.
Right. That's what I do love. It's like you get to try it out with the foster program. So I'm going to maybe try that out,
Cool.
and then maybe adopt.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, while we're here, can we talk a little bit about fostering?
Absolutely.
I mean, I hate to just
that's
get
great.
to
Let's
the
do
red
it.
meat, but I mean, that's something that we've been talking about a lot here lately in Marcom and around the rest of the organization. Maura, talk about, to just kind of remind our viewers how important that component of what we do here at the SPCA is to our pets and to the people who ultimately end up adopting those animals.
Fostering is a big deal. I remember 20 years ago, it really wasn't a thing. And just from that historical perspective, sure, there were some fosters. Absolutely. I remember a really lovely lady named Pat Smiley. She was the head of our foster program back in the day. And the program, it was wonderful. We had folks who were very dedicated, but it wasn't a very large program. Now we're looking at 200 plus different foster homes right now at the SPCA of Texas. And we're constantly looking for more, because the more fosters, the more animals that can be fostered, that means the fewer that are in the shelter. And then depending on what each animal needs, that might be a nursing mama dog or mama cat and their babies, might be a dog who's just had a heartworm treatment and now they're going to finish that up and they just need a calm place to be. Might be hospice, an animal who may not have that much longer to live, but who is just looking for a soft place to land for the rest of their lives. Regardless, our foster team is amazing because, and the SPCA of Texas is amazing for so many reasons, but our foster team supplies our foster volunteers with everything they need for their foster pets. So food, bed, bowls, medicine, toys, you name it. We want to make it medical care. You bring the animal in. The way we say it on the website is you just bring the love. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. We'll provide everything else. And it's a big deal. So being able to find new foster parents, it's an ongoing process because we always want to expand. And we know that some people out there may have an afternoon to foster. They might have a weekend to foster. Maybe they have several weeks. All that's great. We even have foster babysitters. So if you're like, I'm going to foster an animal and I could foster them for several weeks, but I'm going to be out of town these 3 days. That's okay. Just let us know. Our foster team can go in and find a foster sitter for you, then foster sitting, and then they come back to you. So we try to make it flexible so it's better for everybody and who wants to be involved. So we want as many people as possible to come in and help. One huge thing fosters do, and also volunteers. So even if you don't foster an animal in your home, you can still go through our wonderful volunteer program and you can take a shelter animal, not to your home necessarily, but you can take that animal to a mobile adoptions event. And that's how a lot of our dogs have been getting adopted lately. We have this handful of amazing volunteers who their specialty right now is taking animals from the shelter to events and just talking to everybody about that dog. And those dogs have been getting adopted.
That's great.
Same thing with foster. So if you have your foster and say it's not 78 billion degrees outside, but maybe you take them to like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, because you can take a dog to Lowe's with you shopping.
Sure.
They let you bring a dog in. Yeah. Take a dog to Lowe's. You're going to go to Lowe's. The dog's inside. You're in the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Come back. Stop by and get a pup cup maybe, or say. Again, maybe it's spring or later in the fall and you want to take a dog to an outdoor spot that's dog friendly, you can do that. Yeah. Or just take them home for the weekend. That's what my husband's trying to convince me. He goes, can you just bring some puppies home for a weekend? I'm like, ooh, okay. We did a cat. We had a cat.
He was cool.
But puppies, I'm like, all right, I have to gotta work my way up to puppies. So trust me when I say that to say, I have the utmost respect for our foster volunteers.
Yeah.
Fosters who are ill.
A little bit of job, isn't it? Yeah,
oh man. Yeah. It's work, but it's wonderful work because you are giving that dog or cat so much love that's going to benefit them. Even just like the socialization alone, just being with them, letting them know that, hey, people aren't so bad.
Right.
It's a big deal. So just a pitch out there, anyone out there listening, watching, you are ready to foster, you can go to spca.org/foster. Check it out. It's an easy process. The team is amazing.
That's so good. I think before we started this podcast, and we kind of started it off with, well, we're kind of taking it easy, getting to know each other and kind of get comfortable. And then we dive right into
Totally
fosterhood because I think it's so important. I mean, it's just been such a topic of, discussion lately around here on how important the program is. And to me, Maura, I don't know. I mean, just to kind of carry on with this for a moment, it seems to me if I'm a potential adopter, fostering is a great way to figure out if you're compatible with an animal.
Sure. Yeah. There's
Right.
foster to adopt is one of the types of foster. So if you come in, our adoption counselors, whether they're staff or volunteers, can kind of talk you through all the different personalities of the animals, figure out what's going to be the best fit for you and your family. And you're like, I really just want to try it out. Then you can foster to adopt. So maybe you foster that weekend and then come in on Sunday afternoon and be like, you know what? I think, we're ready.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful too.
Yeah. Just anything. I mean, anything that you can do to get to get an animal out of the building and some fresh air and socialize with other people and other animals. It's just so good for their mental, health, I think too.
Yeah. Our shelter is beautiful.
Yes.
Thanks to our donors. This is a gorgeous place.
They eat well.
Yeah. They have great food.
Oh,
Thank you
yeah.
to Hills Pet Nutrition. We
Absolutely.
feed our shelter pets Hills Science Diet. And so the animals have great food, a great place to stay. The staff and volunteers work so hard to do that. It's not a home.
No.
We are a temporary stop for the pets
Right.
in our care. And we want to make sure that we're giving them that exceptional care here until they find their forever families and they can go live in homes.
Exactly.
I kind of want to bring up something now that you mentioned that. I think we talked about this before about how sometimes people think that because the animals have it so good in the shelter that they don't have to be as urgent about helping to foster or to adopt. But could you kind of touch on that a little bit? Like,
Sure.
just to help people understand that this is not a home. This is like a temporary resting place,
Absolutely. Yeah, especially, and I'm guilty of it too. I'll say, man, if I were a cat, if I were going to be a cat in my next life, I would be totally happy living in the condos here.
Oh my gosh, they're lush. For a cat.
I can lay on this really soft pillow that's elevated and I can look out a window and see just grass and trees and birds and
Get some yummy enrichment here
Yeah.
and there. Nom, 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 nom.
plenty of toys,
Right.
great healthy food. Be like set.
Yeah.
But no, it's as wonderful as it is. A shelter has a million smells. If you put yourself in the shoes, in the paws of a dog or cat, dogs are dogs and cats are cats and people are people. And we all have different needs and we all have different languages. We all have different, going back to the needs, a dog is going to need something different than a cat needs, and cats different from dogs, people different from dogs and cats, all of the above. But there's certain things that we have in common. And one of them is just being comfortable. There are certain things about a shelter that no matter how hard everybody works, it's still going to have a million smells because there are hundreds of animals in a building. There's a veterinarian's practice inside. So all the, people out there say, maybe my dog gets scared if we're going to go to the vet. Sometimes it can be because of all of those smells or just kind of a medical thing.
Sure.
Some animals can get nervous about that. Human kids I don't want to get a shot. Well, you need a shot.
There are people that don't want to go to the hospital because of the way it smells,
Right.
or be anywhere near physical, medical facility where there's, that kind of thing happening. I can see a dog being totally tuned into that because they're focused on the smells and just basic things they see. So they're not able to rationalize, I'm here for, this is helping me, not,
Right.
going to hurt me.
Well, and some dogs are incredibly stressed out by barriers. So if that's a kennel with a door, but in a house, maybe they have a living room and a bedroom, a hallway and a kitchen and a dining room to roam around in. I'm thinking like a one bedroom place is great. You can go over here and look out this window, and you can go over here and lay on this couch or lay on this bed, and you got plenty of room. But that's not the way it is in the shelter, because if you're a dog and you're in the shelter, you're not in your kennel, you're on your leash, you're taking a wonderful walk, you're in the play yard. Something else here that we do that I know we'll talk about eventually a lot more in depth is play groups. So that we try to do everything we can to allow dogs and cats in our care to exhibit natural behaviors. But it's always going to be a challenge because it's just not a home.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a step back for a minute too and talk about, we talked about each of us have pets. in our adult lives. Let's talk about when you guys were kids, what your experience were with animals. I always grew up being an animal lover and, being around. We lived probably 5 miles outside of town, not on a farm really, but just kind of out in the country. And we saw lots of different animals. So of course we had dogs and cats, but there were horses out there, and we had ducks at one time. And that was really an interesting, thing, is taking care of ducks, because man, they get loud, and when they're hungry, then how they quack when they get all together. They do this like group wheeze instead of a quack. It's like a
oh wow,
they get so loud. You're like, what? It sounds like an airplane landing, and you're like, what is
like,
that?
are y'all okay?
Exactly. That's the geese. They're hungry, or the ducks. Yeah. So we had those, and I'm sure you guys have similar stories about growing up and what kind of animals were in your lives. And if that, I just kind of am curious if anything like that influenced the path you've taken to come to SPCA, because I know I've always loved animals, and then when this job was open and I applied for it, I thought, well, that's perfect.
Yeah,
because I've always loved animals. Has that been? Is that the case for you too, as well?
Well, I've always had pets. And my mom will tell you, my whole family will tell you, they thought I was weird because I would carry an ant or an insect outside the house before I kill it or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I guess I kind of just respect
Don't
that
kill
everything
him.
has a right to life.
Yes,
I wouldn't
agreed.
want anyone to step on me while I was just walking.
For sure.
So.
And why not, if you can take them outside, just take them outside. KJ, I love that you carried insects or what have you outside.
Yeah, that was my thing.
That's a wonderful thing.
And then once I got here, I was just, it was so natural. It was almost supernatural how I got here, because it almost seemed like I wasn't supposed to be here at the time.
Yeah.
But it just lined up so perfectly. I was like,
Me too. Same way.
I love animals. This is a perfect job for me. What about you, Maura?
Yeah.
Love it. I had a ton of different animals growing up. My parents were very wonderful about adopting animals. We had ducks, Waddles and Waggles. Unfortunately, we knew how to keep them. My parents knew. Our veterinarian was a really good friend of ours. We lived in a little teeny tiny town not too far away from A&M. And so the veterinary school there, just family friends had either, and we always knew somebody's kid or cousin or somebody was at A&M. It seems like at least one of them was always in vet school back then. Or we also, this is back in the 70s. I'm dating myself a little, but back in the 70s, there was a lady in town who she and my aunt were like the resident cat ladies. I don't mean that in a bad way. Yeah, I don't mean, not at all. Like they were doing TNR in the 70s when nobody was doing TNR, because the vet school would ask, hey, we need cats and dogs to spay and neuter. We need the vet students to, go through their internships and go through all their learning processes. And so between my aunt and a lady named Miss Vivian, this is my Aunt Eileen, and Miss Vivian, they took all the cats that we had roaming over to A&M, and before we knew it, we had a TNR colony in Somerville. We didn't know what it was called, but we knew that they were all fixed and they were all vaccinated, and it was a healthier community.
Now, were you involved with that process as a child?
No, only insofar
Okay.
as I was around my aunt.
Okay.
And could you clarify, what is TNR?
Oh, yes. TNR is trap, neuter, return.
Trap, neuter,
you have
return.
like community cats that just kind of are around. You're like, who's feeding you? Maybe somebody or maybe 7 somebodies are feeding them, but they've never lived in a house. And some people might have, one word for this group of cats, some people might call them feral. Some people might call them outdoor cats. Some people might call them, community cats is kind of the more recent term. But there's some cats that they're just not going to do well inside a home. That's not what they're used to. They're used to being outside. And so if you can use a humane trap, get them in, you put real good stinky food in there.
I was just going to ask you if we encourage people to do that. Do we encourage them to? Or is that the last line of...
No. It's definitely something that is a preference to bringing them to a shelter. Because if you're bringing a cat that's never been socialized with humans into a shelter, they're going to be stressed. Many shelters out there aren't going to have resources for them. At the SPCA of Texas, a cat like that might be able to become a working cat. So maybe we'll place them at a like a nursery or a warehouse or a barn cat, working cat, where that cat can basically have a job and live a similar life to what they were used to, but in a safe place, so that they're not maybe like some community cats can be at very much risk of dying very early due to being hit by cars or attacked by natural predators. You know, a lot of DFW is in a natural area where it's kind of like a coyote superhighway.
Totally.
So, and those coyotes get hungry, and it's a circle of life, and it's distressing. But yeah, if you have a community cat, you can get them spayed or neutered. Usually get their ear tipped or notched. A notch is kind of like a little, just a little beat that's a little bit that's been taken out, or they'll just take off the whole tip, the ear tip. So you can spot from a distance and say, that cat has been spayed or neutered.
I never knew that, and I've seen cats like that. That's fantastic to know that. Okay, that's great. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us this time. We'll be back next time. We don't know when exactly we'll be back, but we'll be back with this crew and a very special guest. And we're so thrilled that you've decided to come and join us and listen to us and hang out with us. It's going to be fun. So please come back and check us out next time.
It'll be a great journey.
Absolutely. I'm Paul Heiso.
I'm KJ Eugene.
Maura Davies.
See you next time.